Imagine checking your 401k retirement account and seeing Bitcoin sitting right next to your mutual funds. That scenario just moved one step closer to reality. Lawmakers in Washington are pressing the SEC to unlock trillions of dollars in retirement savings for crypto. If they succeed, it could dwarf ETF inflows and change this market forever. Subscribe for daily alpha. Welcome to Plugged In Crypto. We break down the biggest moves shaping Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the entire digital asset space. Today's focus, the $9.3 trillion retirement fund unlock that could flip the script for crypto adoption. Here's the news. 9 U.S. lawmakers, led by Representative French Hill, have formally called on SEC Chair Paul Atkins to implement President Trump's executive order. That order directs regulators to allow crypto access inside 401k retirement plans. Right now, retirement accounts are largely locked into traditional stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. But if this guidance is followed, workers could allocate part of their retirement directly into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other approved digital assets. Let's talk numbers. The total 401k market in the US sits at around $9.3 trillion. If even 1% of that allocation shifts into crypto, that's about $93 billion of fresh inflows. For comparison, Bitcoin ETFs have attracted just over $20 billion so far this year. We're talking about a potential pool more than 4 times larger than ETF demand. That's why this story is blowing up across social media, because the magnitude is almost impossible to ignore. ETFs were about institutional access. 401ks are about retail access. Everyday workers, savers, and households. That's a completely different type of adoption curve. Instead of Wall Street funds controlling inflows, this would let individuals direct a slice of their retirement into Bitcoin. It levels the playing field, and it means that crypto is no longer just an alternative. It becomes part of mainstream wealth planning. This also signals a political shift. The Department of Labor, under previous leadership, explicitly discouraged crypto exposure in retirement plans. But under the new administration, the executive order reverses that stance. Now, Congress is applying pressure to make it happen quickly. The lawmakers pushing this view it as a matter of financial freedom, giving Americans the choice to hedge inflation, diversify beyond the dollar, and tap into the same opportunities institutions already enjoy. That's a dramatic change in tone. What happens if this goes through? First, expect inflows to lift Bitcoin and Ethereum directly, because they'll be the first assets offered. Second, altcoins like Solana, XRP, and ADA could see knock-on effects if multi-asset retirement funds follow. Third, the psychological impact could be massive. Think about it. Retirement accounts are long-term by nature. That means less selling pressure, more consistent buying, and a sturdier demand base. Analysts are already calling this one of the biggest potential catalysts since ETFs were approved. Of course, there are risks. Regulators could slow-walk the process. The SEC still has discretion on which assets qualify. And critics argue that exposing retirees to Bitcoin's volatility could backfire if markets crash. These concerns aren't trivial, and they will shape the final rules. But the fact that this debate has moved from fringe to mainstream is the real headline. Crypto is now being discussed in the same breath as Social Security and retirement reform. Here's the bigger picture. If 401k plans open to crypto, we're no longer just talking about speculation. We're talking about integration into the financial system at the deepest level. Retirement savings. That's sticky money, long-term capital, and cultural legitimacy. It would also pressure other countries to follow suit, just as ETFs have sparked global copycats. So is this the final missing piece? The moment crypto becomes mainstream in retirement planning? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you missed yesterday's deep dive on Bitcoin liquidations, tap the link on screen now. Subscribe to Plugged In Crypto, daily alpha, no hype.